Next slide. Alrighty then, our agenda. So if you've been around with us, we're going to get started off with a Q&A. So we're going to get right into it once Erica joins us, and then we're going to get into our main topic, which is data-driven design to maximize ROI for you guys' properties. Then we will wrap it up after that with some closing thoughts, Q&A with our audience, you guys. So please be, engaged with us and any questions you might have. We will get as many of those questions answered as we can. If we don't get to your answer, of course, we'll go ahead and email you guys. Alrighty then, let's go to the next slide. And then, of course, our lengthy disclaimer, right? This is just general information. Please don't act on any information that you see. Please contact a professional. Our lawyers insist that you read this.
Yeah, well, I think the point there is
There's always an exception, and that exception could be you. I know.
exactly right. Well, Erica joined in, and it's my bad, Erica. You came in as Erica O, which I like
Oh,
that. But you had me fooled for a second. Didn't want to promote the wrong panelist. So we just quickly introduced ourselves. Yeah, know a little bit about our firm, but we focus on this wonderful niche here with we talked a little bit about it. We call it short-term rental hosts. We talked about vacation rentals. The reason we talk about short-term rentals is actually for tax reasons. So interesting or maybe not, but we are in the same wonderful space. Everyone's sick of hearing about Jacob and myself. Please tell us a little bit about you, Erica, and thanks for being on.
of course. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Dike. I am the principal designer here at Erica O Designs. I specialize in vacation rental design, specifically for very busy professionals. I don't have a interior design background, so I actually have a degree in MIS, which is Management Information Systems, and I was a business analyst at NASA, where I started co-hosting short-term rentals. And then once I developed my designing for dollars formula, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, I left. And I have been designing vacation rentals ever since. I am currently working on my 77th vacation rental. So I'm really excited to share all that I've learned in the process so that you don't have to make the mistakes that I did in the beginning, and you can just hit the ground running when it comes to making money.
I love that. Hey, Erica, we're gonna go into Q&A round in just a second, but I'd love to hear, anytime we've got these stories of having a 9 to 5 and then taking the leap and doing your own thing, your own way. I'd love to hear, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Did you have a lemonade stand as a kid? How did you get inspired to say, hey, I want to do my own thing?
I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I think I just a friend of mine, she was like, "Oh, you've always been so self-aware." I think I just always knew that what I like. And so when I was working at NASA straight out of college, I was with a lot of older people who were like, "Oh, I met my spouse here." And I'm like, "Wow, you've been here for so long." And I don't know, I just didn't really want to be that. And
Mhm.
so I really leaned into my design side because it's just something that I've always loved to do, something I've been really good at. And when I started designing one property and, they were referring me and it was making money, I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do this like part-time because I feel like I'm better serving here than just being behind a desk. And so I took that leap of faith, and I kid you not, I probably didn't get like family support in doing that until like maybe recently, maybe 2, 3 years ago. So I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs, but I do think that I have paved the way for others in my family who are thinking about
Yeah.
how better can I serve than just, getting a 9 to 5.
And, usually when you come from a family of entrepreneurs, you get a lot of people that cheer you on, who say, hey, we know it's risky. How did your family react? Because it wasn't a family of entrepreneurs. Did you get a lot of skepticism? And where are they now on the journey?
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't know, I am Nigerian, and in my culture, it's really, I don't know the word, emphasize or that you should be like a lawyer or a doctor or engineer. So of course they were really
Security
happy. Yeah,
or
when
an
I got the
accountant?
job. Yeah. funny. My mom is actually an accountant.
Well, there
So yeah,
We're
so
everywhere.
yeah, when I got the job at NASA, they were like, "Oh, yes, like
you
great." But then when I said I wanted to leave, they're like, "No, I don't think you should do that."
go.
But I think they all have seen my design side, as a kid, they would always be like, "It's not a fashion show." And I'm like, "I know it's not a fashion show, but I just want to wear this." So like it wasn't far-fetched that I wanted to do design. They just weren't sure how successful I would be at it. So, now I'm 5 years in and they're like, "Oh, there are people who really care for design and it's not just something you do for fun." So I think they respect and admire that I took the courage to do it. And they're pretty supportive now for the most part.
That's beautiful. So did they think you were, it was like you were saying you wanted to be an art major when you told them you were gonna do design?
Yes, because I don't think they knew you could do design like for a living. I think that just is something that they see as like a hobby, something you do on the side, something you do because you enjoy it and not because there are people out there who could benefit from those talents and those gifts.
Absolutely. And I'm saving all the special design nuggets for your presentation. So I'm getting all the context. So you worked at a small startup called NASA where, you weren't going to get any security and you took
Yeah.
a big leap. I think a lot of clients will empathize with that. I think our client profile, a lot of the times are folks that do have a 9 to 5 and are building a portfolio of Airbnbs on the side. Sometimes we see the leap, sometimes we see it, but I think you have a good, in this audience, you have a good mix of people that did corporate servitude, um, and kind of built a entrepreneurial business to complement that. And oftentimes, you probably know, in order to qualify for
Yeah.
a loan to get a vacation rental, you've got to have good corporate income, or you've had to be an entrepreneur for at least 2 strong years. So quick deviation into qualifying for a loan for vacation rental. Bank's going to want to see an average of 2 years where you've done really well. So oftentimes, quick PSA, you get your tax return, you're like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to write everything off. You've been watching tax TikTok. You're going to write off your wedding. You're going to write off your, kid's school. Like all of a sudden, you've got zero income and the bank doesn't want to look at you. So our clients know that, but just one way to weave in the journey of ups and downs. So Eric, it sounds like 5 years in, you know this stuff. You've dealt with it. Yeah, I see you nodding. Yeah, those are really important things. So I wanted you to know a little bit about our client base. Just before we move on, tell us a little bit about what it was like, kind of what you wanted to do before college. What did you study? You told me MIS, so you want to do business, but like, where did you see yourself when you were thinking about, hey, I'm in my teens, what am I gonna do in my 20s? Like, how did you think about your career then? And then we'll move into the now.
Versus now. So uh so I came to America when I was 3 years old. So before that, we lived in Nigeria. And in Nigeria, my mom was a lawyer and then she became a judge. So when we got to America, and of course, I'm growing up and whatnot, I got this bright idea like, okay, I'm going to double major and be an accounting major and pre-law so that I can eventually start a business. I always knew I was going to start a business, but that what type of business that would be changed over the years. But at this time, I was at Baylor, and double majoring at Baylor is not the easiest thing. So I kind of just had to pick something. I was still a double major, but then we had a presentation from someone who was talking, because I was in the MIS class as an elective, and they were talking about their degree, MIS, and I never heard of that degree before. But I felt like that was a good like base, being able to manage information, being able to create systems to pretty much get anything you want done. That's something that now I really value as an interior designer, because there is the creative side of the business, but there's a lot of systems you really need to put in place so that you can work with other people, because they're coming to you as a specialist and it's not knowledge that they understand or they get. But if you can create systems where they're able to follow you throughout the process, while you're still holding their hand, but while you still have the full creative freedom. That's really important to know. So I was a pre-law accounting major, and then I completely switched over to MIS. And when I graduated, I applied for an internship, but I guess I did that internship at NASA really well. And so they extended it to be a contract where I was there for a year. But the whole time I was there, I was like, this is not where I want to be. But I
Yeah.
am going to take in a lot of information. That was when I got switched into the BA role where I supported the project manager. And so it allowed me to look at things really differently, like seeing a project and knowing the different I guess benchmarks that you need to hit, knowing the different elements that come into play in a successful project. I use that now in my day to day. So without going
Definitely.
into my process too detailed, because I want to say that for later. As a designer, when I design, I do it a little differently. So I like to start with your main investment budget, and then we allocate it on different areas based on the design formula that I can't share right now because I'm going to share it later. But and so I look at design differently. I look at it
Yeah.
from a business standpoint. And so that's why I feel like I'm really able to work with investors better, because I get the numbers, I get, you know, why they're in business. Like you said, a lot of people are in 9 to 5. So when they come to me, I'm not thinking about making it, oh, so pretty. I'm thinking about making it profitable, because you get into this because you're hoping to scale your portfolio. You're hoping to retire early. You're hoping to do so many things that this property is the vehicle for. So it's really important to me that when I'm putting and choosing elements in your space, the ROI is there,
Yeah.
because we don't just care for it to be pretty. We care for it to be profitable. And so that's how MIS and me are here now.
I think that's great. And I think I love the like trajectory from like business into creative. You typically see, like, especially with our clients, you see it go the other way around, where you've got creative people who know the business, maybe know what a Airbnb should look like,
Yeah.
but they've got to figure out the numbers and the accounting side. So a little bit of a you know, match made in Haven, huh? Huh? Getting both of that. So thanks for sharing that. And I'll share a little bit. Like our family came from Mexico. My family did, and my dad was a lawyer in Mexico. My mom was
Oh
a
my
doctor, a
God.
dentist, and then came here. And then my mom, you know, basically downgrade your career
Yeah.
when you switch. So I empathize with that. My mom became a dental assistant. My dad became a paralegal, and actually, I don't know if I've shared this before, but just on this, like, you never know where your trajectory is going. Um, my dad did taxes because he was like the paralegal tax guy for, I'm going to call it like the value marts across LA. So
Okay.
my first career in tax was actually handing out my dad's business cards, putting them in parking lots at these Mexican value marts across LA. So I kind of came in where I was like, I don't want anything to do with starting
With
my own business. And that's that's why my first internship out of college was at Morgan Stanley, and then I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then yeah, kind of similar to you. After that, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a cog in the wheel. So here we are. That's how we got. That's how we
Yeah.
both got here.
Wow. That is so small world. Like I feel like people have more similarities than they have differences, but we just never know until we talk. So that's interesting.
Exactly, and that's why we do this, because I think the industry is growing. I think it's growing so fast. Like now, there's all these conferences for
Yeah.
STRs or vacation rentals, and I just can't keep up with everybody. So, thank you again. We haven't covered anything,
Yeah.
but thanks for joining. Having a great time. Lucy, challenge for you is I don't know what slide we're supposed to be on, but let's make it up.
We already went through the agenda. Yep, we already went through that.
Okay,
Perfect.
we'll jump right in. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
please.
so
Well,
like I
everybody, you've heard from Erica. You know her a lot about her background. Now let's hear about what you do, Erica. Yeah, take it away.
Awesome. So, like I mentioned briefly before, I have what I call a designing for dollars formula. Because when you are designing your vacation rental or a vacation rental, if you are planning to be a designer like I am, it's very important to know that investors are coming to you because you want to make money. So you have to be designing for dollars no matter what. I know there's some designers like, oh, I can't really guarantee, this design is going to make this much money. But I mean, if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be doing this, because it's very, very important. Because when we are picking the properties, we have pro formas, we have numbers. That's what makes it a good deal. But your design is what's going to make that good deal a reality for you, as opposed to like every day hoping you get bookings, every day hoping you hit those numbers. This is where it begins. So the first part of my data-driven design formula is, where do you start? The very, very most important thing is your ideal guest. A lot of the mistake that most people make is they're thinking they need to design a property that everyone will like, because you don't know who's booking, right? So you want it to be generally liked. You want it to be, oh, I like this. But your ideal guests, they're all going to be different people, but they're coming for one specific experience. And that is how you're going to attract them. So think of it like when you are buying a gift for someone. If you don't know the person, you probably won't know what type of gift to get. You'll guess, like, I hope they like this gift. But if it's like your brother or your cousin or your best friend, you know exactly who they are, you know what they like, and you know how to pick out the perfect guest that's going to win them over, So that's what it kind of is when you are looking at your ideal guest. You look at your location. Where are you located? Why do people visit the area? Sometimes people are trying to attract travel nurses. Now, that is your ideal guest, travel nurses. Because you know your ideal guest, you're able to know, am I in a good location? Like, am I in proximity to a hospital where they would work? Am I in an area where, even though I'm not that close, I do have public transportation that they can use? Just knowing your ideal guest is where you want to start. Don't start off on Pinterest, creating boards and looking at, oh, this is cute, this is cute. Well, that comes later. The first thing you want to do is really get to know your ideal guest. Make a list of why they're coming, what they're doing when they come here, what they enjoy doing in the space. Look at your competition. Before you design a vacation rental, you don't necessarily have a competition because you're not competing yet. So think of this as research. Look at in the area, other properties, read their reviews. What are guests saying? What did guests enjoy about the property? What did guests wish they had at the property? Look at why they came. They always almost tell you why they're visiting. They'll say, oh, we were here for a birthday party. We were here for a retreat. We were here. What are the random ones I've had? I've had bachelorette parties, bachelor parties. Just knowing why they come, you can kind of get an idea like, okay, most people come to this area for this. So once I know my ideal guest, I'm ready to move on to the next phase of the design process, which is designing for value. So I guess Lucy can go on to the next slide. All right, and that designing for value for your ideal guest is going to answer that big question of where to save and where to splurge in your budget. So that's like another big thing, because you have this set amount of funds that you want to use to design this property, and you don't know what to do. Like, do you get the trendy sofa that you see that's like $5,000, or can you get away with just a basic sofa that's like $1,000? That's going to be based on your ideal guest. So knowing that guest before you move into offering value it's kind of helpful. So
For sure.
offering value this is where your nightly rate comes into play, because again, we have these numbers that we purchased this property for. So like, these numbers are really important. So your nightly rate, which is what you said you had to make per night for this deal to work, is where your value is going to come from. So let's say you're over $500 a night, then you know that you're probably looking at luxury clients. These are people who are willing to spend $500 a night. So when you know your ideal guest, let's say luxury families, you know that they probably will value a lot of seating spaces in the living room. So you know that you can splurge on comfortable seating and ample amount of seating. Another area you can consider is like do I splurge on a game room or do I splurge on a home gym? It goes back down to your ideal guest. If you are trying to target those luxury families, then you know that if they're traveling up to the mountains where they'll stay at the property, they're going to value a game room more than a home gym. If you could do both, they're definitely going to value both. But a game room would be more valued than the home gym. So you know that you're going to splurge there because your ideal guest is willing to pay premium for what they value. And so that's how you get your nightly rate. It's not necessarily filling your property in with a bunch of fancy, expensive pieces, but it's filling it with pieces that your ideal guest will value so that when they are looking for a certain experience, which is what they do when they're browsing listings, they're looking for an experience, not a place to sleep. So when they're looking for that experience, because you've thought about them in your design and you're offering them value, meaning when you pay this rate, you're going to get everything that you want, need, and appreciate in this property. You get your nightly rate and your guests get what they value, and it's win-win for everybody. So just figuring out how to spend your money when it comes to designing your vacation rental is based on your ideal guest. I always say, when in doubt, think about your ideal guest. If you're in the furniture store and you see a bunch of sofas, you don't know if you should get a leather one or a velvet one or a green one or a blue one, just stop and think about the friend you're buying the gift for. I'm buying this gift for travel nurses. They would probably value a sofa that has a chase connected to it or a sofa with an ottoman because after a long day at work, they want to come home and recline and get off their feet. So that's going to help you know where to spend money and where to save money. A good example of where to save, let's say you see a really nice coffee table. That's not going to really attract or detract anybody. So you could save on the coffee table and spend most money on your game room. Just knowing that, keeping that ideal guest in mind is going to help you with those design decisions because you're going to make a lot of decisions from the size to the material to the layout to how you plan your space so that guests can watch TV comfortably or they can maneuver with their suitcases comfortably. You're going to make a lot of design decisions. So knowing your ideal guests will help you know where to save and where to splurge and how to offer value in your design.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of important points there that I just want to like double down on. And that's like, it's not about what you prefer, what you like to see in a space. It's about kind of their journey. So like one thing we learned, Ashton and I, who works with me, we have a place in Rosarito, like a beach place. And what we learned is people don't spend any time at the Airbnb. So why would we get the most comfortable couch? Like, in fact, we just changed it to be a couch that like just has a pull out. So now we can get another couple in there. And then we found out it's not families, you know, like I've gone with my family, but it's typically couples. It's like pairs of couples that are going. So it's like you got to make sure there's shot glasses. You got to make sure the fridge, you know, has ice in it. But like outside of that, you don't need to like we didn't need to have like a bunch of dishes and coffee stuff.
Yeah,
like they're all just
exactly.
getting up, getting out, and then coming back at night and going to sleep. So yeah, a lot of what you're saying is resonating, Erica. Thank you.
Exactly. I also have an ideal guest guide if anyone wants to connect with me later. And it pretty much outlines 6 types of guests. So the general 6 types of guests you're going to get are couples, business travelers, solo travelers, travel nurses, families in large groups, and people traveling for special occasions. So in that guide, I've outlined like the must-haves for each person.
Yeah.
So like you said, you know, couples, they don't really need a bunch of dishes and stuff, but what they do need is like areas where they can have romantic dinners. So if you have, you know, you're along the beach, I don't know if you have like an outdoor space, then you would probably get a lot of value if you offer like a bistro seating table outside where they can enjoy. It doesn't have to be home cooked because they probably won't cook at home, but they'll order in and just enjoy
Order in.
of the beach. And that could be something that you upsell, if you have a private chef that you want to lean into. But those are just, when you're offering value, it makes it so much easier to upsell and make more money, because now you've honed in on like this particular experience that your property provides, and you can just elevate that over and over and over, instead of guessing like, should I get an accent wall or should I get a dartboard? You'll know if you know your ideal guest. So
For
if you want
sure.
to connect with me, I'll share that with you.
Yeah, that's a great point. How does someone listening, like, how do they get that guide?
They can reach out to me on Instagram, email. In my Instagram bio, you'll see the link there. Or you can send me an email and I'll share that with you. But that guide is available.
All right. So if you want that, stay put, because you're going to get the handle and the email all coming soon. Let's roll forward.
All right. Yep. Let's go to the next slide. And lastly, the biggest issue that people see is how to stand out, especially if you've had your property for a while. This may be something you're struggling with. You're realizing like, oh, now I can't compete with everything that's going on. I have to revamp the whole design. You don't necessarily have to do that if you design it once correctly and you make the right changes. But I'll get back to that in a minute. So your ideal guest, like I said before, they're in search of a unique experience. So they know the value of what that is and they're ready to pay for it. So when they are traveling for their birthday and they're looking for a vacation rental, they already have that feeling inside of like, oh, what we want to do when we get there, who's going, how excited I want to be. And so they know that. And when they see it, regardless of the cost, they want to pay for that because they want that experience. And so in the next slide, I will show you a acronym that I created so that you can be sure to include the perfect unique experience in your property. But before we get to that, I just want to touch on one thing, which is timeless design. So timeless design pretty much just means you aren't honing in on a specific style. So almost like eclectic, but it's just a nice layer of different pieces. That means when you pick like your sofa and your rug, instead of thinking like, oh, I'm trying to do coastal or I'm trying to do beachy, just think of your ideal guest and be like, will they like the sofa? If they will, then you can pick a pink sofa or a green sofa. Like there are no rules. The more unique your design is, the more it's going to stop the scroll when people are looking. So in a lot of mountain properties that I design, you're not going to see that usual motif that you see in other mountain homes, the plaid. You're not going to see that because I'm thinking of all the other listings that my clients' guests will see, and I want their property to pop. I don't want it to blend in. So when you mix layers and you're unique with your design, you're guaranteed to stand out. And you don't have to think about making constant changes to it to keep up, because it's always going to look good and it's just going to stand the test of time. That's literally what timeless design is about. And when you don't hone in on a specific style, that it removes the date. So when you aren't trendy, a lot of people love the boxwood walls, like the green boxwood walls with the neon sign. That was a huge trend. I've never done it that way specifically. I wish I could share a picture, but there's a way I did it so that it lets you know like, oh, I know what's going on, but I'm also not trendy. So 10 years from now, the way I used it is still going to look good. It's still going to stand out. And my client doesn't have to think about making constant changes to keep up. They're always going to be at the forefront. And if you don't really have an eye for design and you're like, where do I start with timeless design? Just look at your property and look at the unique features. So if it has a quirky layout or it has a random corner that, you don't know what to do with, create something, like turn it into a reading nook or work from home space. Like play with the features that are unique to your property so that no matter what, your property is the only one that's going to have that. It's the only one that's going to look for that. And if your ideal guest resonates with that design, then they'll be happy to book, even if you never go back and make changes to it. So if you can, I know timeless design is kind of hard to explain, especially if like design is not your thing, but it's mine. So if you need any help, you can reach out with me to me for that. But do your best to just highlight the property. And so now I'm going to show you the acronym I put together to create unique experiences in your property. It's a little blurry, but I hope you guys can still see it. So the first thing you want to do in your property when you are creating a unique experience is to add personal touches to the space. So it can be as simple as just having a welcome sign. It could be on your TV. It could be something your cleaners put on a whiteboard on your fridge, just saying welcome, letting them know like, hey, I am your host and I'm thinking about you and I want you to feel special, feel at home. I'm not just looking at you like a booking. I'm looking at you like a person. So what that will do is help you, prevent those bad reviews. They'll feel comfortable reaching out to you if they do see something as soon as they get there, because they know that if you thought about something as little as putting my name on the space, you obviously care about, the property, and anything that you overlooked, it was on accident. It's not because you don't care. And I'm not going to complain about how much I paid for your property because it was just a mistake. So it's like a friend, if a friend comes over, like, oh, you probably just forgot to do that, they'll pardon you for it. So just including personal touch is a great way to create a unique experience. And if you can display that in your photos, like taking a picture of a welcome basket or something, that will convey that before the guest book. R stands for routines. So when you're designing your property, you want to think of ways to help your ideal guests stick to their everyday routine while they're away from home. So a good way to do that is maybe if your ideal guest is like people who work out a lot, then you can provide them with a home gym so that they know like, oh, this property is a little more expensive, but at least I'll be able to continue my workouts when I book at this property. Versus if I put this one that's cheaper in my budget, I won't be able to work out. So sticking to everyday routines, putting good lighting in the bathroom. Maybe people have extensive skincare. Small things like that will set your property out because they're like, oh, this place has good lighting in the bathroom. I can still do my makeup. I can still do my skincare.
I've never thought of that. Thank you.
If they're a content creator, I can, still create that content, just sticking to their everyday routine. A good quick tip that I like to give everybody: include an air fryer in your property because everyone uses that at home. And if they're traveling, they don't have to think about, if they normally just throw in dinner, they know that when I book this property, I can do the same thing. I don't have to think about a restaurant or think about cooking. I could just do what I always do at home. So if you don't have an air fryer already, trust me, put that bad boy on your counter, take a picture of your kitchen. That's gonna get you some more bookings for sure. O stands for offers. Offer amenities that guests won't find elsewhere. Brings me back to, highlighting your unique property. If you are by the water, then offer maybe kayaking. Of course, have them sign waivers and stuff like that. But just think of unique things you can offer. An easy way, if you're not super creative, just reach out to local artists and ask them, hey, do you mind displaying your artwork in my property? I'll have a QR code for you and guests can purchase it from me or purchase it from you if they like it or something like that. Just find ways to tie in the local community to your property if you don't know how to highlight your property. F, everyone knows about FOMO, fear of missing out. Design something that's irresistible, that guests can't wait to book immediately, or maybe they'll add it to their wish list and be like, oh, I can't afford it right now, but I definitely want to go there, because that will also boost it on the algorithm. So just think of, again, super unique things that no one else has. If you don't have any ideas, look at your competition, look at what they have, and think about what you can add. Something I did to a redesign just now, it was in the Smokies. Everyone has a deck, everyone has a view, but everyone did not have a telescope that you could see the view, send to your phone, and share on social media. Tag the cabin and say it's a great stay. Free marketing and something that, who has a telescope? Do you have a telescope? Do you have a telescope?
I don't. No.
Okay. But I'm sure you wouldn't mind booking for a few extra dollars so that you can see that view. And that was a view that everybody had, but everyone had a telescope. So
And I think you got to highlight it because I was just thinking as you're talking about like offering amenities or things that stand out. Like I stayed at a Airbnb with my family in Hawaii, and I have three kids, and they had boogie boards, and they didn't put that in the listing anywhere. But the
oh
joy
yeah,
I had as a parent, where I'm like, because it's Hawaii too, they would have been like $40 each to rent.
yeah,
I
for
was like,
sure.
this is great. Like,
Yeah.
it would have stood out if I'd seen that. So absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely thinking. So when you think about these unique experiences, it'll also help you take better photos for your property because now you know the experience you want to highlight in those photos and sell. It's not just like real estate photos where you're taking a picture of the property. You're taking a picture of the experience. So styling it, displaying, like you said, the boogie boards, that would have definitely made you book that quicker because you know your kids are going to like that. You know it's going to save you money. Just stuff like that. That's yeah. It's just always easier to think about your property this way because it makes every design decision
Yeah.
easy, especially like picking your cover photo. You know what you are highlighting. So
Absolutely. And I don't
that's
want to interrupt your flow, but I have to ask because I think one thing that I've seen across the board since the pandemic is workspaces. Like everyone's
yeah,
gone remote now and you can work anywhere you want. Like I look for a place where I can put a second monitor. Like I'll throw a second monitor in my travel bag. So
yeah.
I need to find a place that has like a big desk, a bigger desk. So how do you think about that? I saw you nodding. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
For sure. Like, so that kind of brings me back to the highlighting unique spaces in your property. So if you do have like a random wall, a random like empty space, and you feel like, oh, something's missing, instead of throwing like a mirror on there, turn it into a work from home space. Or if I had a client that had like a big bathroom and she had just a table with a lamp in the bathroom. And I was like, turn that into like a diaper changing station. Think about your ideal guest and really use these spaces.
Mm,
I know, you may get tired and feel like I just want it, furnished, I just want it done. But you're going to realize when it's too late that you should have done certain things in the property. So really use those empty spaces, empty walls, empty closets, really use them for your ideal guest. Speaking about the work from home area, I'm trying to find, somewhere to stay for my birthday. I wanted to just go away for a week and I want my husband to come and he works in tech, works from home. And one of the properties, they were kind of way over the budget, but they had two monitors already that came with the desk. And so it was kind of like, well, instead of you having to pack your monitors, you could just pack your laptop. And that was something that we're willing to pay more from. So
yeah.
really thinking about those work from home spaces, I think you can't go wrong with that. So if you have a wall, you don't know what to do, buy a desk, buy a chair, and there you go. Label
I
in
love
the
that.
kitchen.
Yeah, I think a lot of times our clients are looking for like practical investments that are just gonna, that they're gonna help ROI. So I mean, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So thinking about your ideal guest, everything will be a practical investment. But if you
Yeah.
don't think about them and you're just like, oh, this is a cool mirror, this is a cool painting, that's not going to make you any money. So, I mean, you could throw that in there, but guests are not booking because you have a painting. They are booking because you set up your mirror so they can take really cool selfies and post on social media and tag your property. So think about it that way. And so really quickly, I'm just going to run through the last three, which is I include everyone. That's a super easy thing to do, but a lot of hosts and investors forget that. So if you have a property that sits or sleeps 10 people, then your dining table has to sit 10 people. If it doesn't, what's going to happen is you get around those holiday seasons and you're going to find that you're not getting booked and you're not sure why, but it's because we all cannot enjoy Thanksgiving dinner around the table because you only have space for 6 people. So those small things can prevent bookings. It can look good. You can have a beautiful dining table that sits 6, but if a guest of 10, 12, they're trying to book, they're not going to book that property, no matter how good it looks. So always think about everyone, even in the living room. If you have a large group, but your living space won't fit that many people and you just throw in a futon, they're going to skip over it. So you want to be creative. Think about, I did a property where the living space, It was big enough, but we also had a bedroom. So what I did in that bedroom was turn it into like a den area. So because we don't fit all the people in the living room, we do have like a second living room where they can sit in. But at night, that living room turned into a bedroom. So we didn't lose the bedroom, but we were able to accommodate everybody. So including everyone in the experience is definitely going to help your listing get booked at the price that you're asking for, because you're giving guests what they want. And L stands for landmarks. I know a lot of hosts and investors, they put it in their title, close to the Grand Canyon, close to this. Good. Everybody is close. You know, your neighbor is close. The house next door is close. But what does your property offer that allows guests to enjoy that landmark? If you have a special view, let's say you can see the Hollywood sign from your property and you have a deck, furnish your deck so that guests can comfortably sit there and take in that view. They're not just close to the Hollywood sign, but they can actually enjoy the Hollywood sign, take selfies with the Hollywood sign. I don't know, record videos with the Hollywood sign. Make those landmarks a part of your property, and that's how you stand out, because the other properties in your neighborhood are also next to that landmark. But what does your property do that makes that landmark important and that distance important? A good idea, if you don't have any space, any creativity, just reach out to a photographer and say, hey, I'm next to the Grand Canyon. Can you take my guests pictures when they book? And if he says yes, then you include that in your property. Free photos at the Grand Canyon, or free photos for an hour at the Grand Canyon. So now it's a unique experience. You know, they're booking a property close to the Grand Canyon and they know they're going to have a personal photographer. So things like that, just tie in the landmark to your property. And lastly, educate. A lot of hosts, you know, we feel like people are coming to your location. You feel like they've done their research, but some people just know they're coming to LA. They don't really know what they're going to do in LA. They don't really know what the days are going to entail, but they know they got their tickets and they know where they're going to stay. So educate them and plan out their vacation. Create a guidebook that will highlight only the best brunch, only the best lunch, only the best dinners. So what will happen is when they come to your property, you've curated their vacation and they're going to leave you a raving review. They'll be like, oh, I loved staying here. Let me use an example of a business traveler. So business travelers, they know that they need to be close to the convention center, and that's about it. When they get there, they'll figure out where they're going to eat and everything like that. But if they book your property and they get there and they have a guidebook that has the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner every day after a long, seminar, they'll just look in the guidebook and then they'll go to this restaurant and it's all the best stuff. So at the end of their stay, their review will be like, this property was great. It was comfortable. It had everything I needed. It was close to the convention center. And you got to check out Ruby's Red Slipper. They have the best blah, blah, blah. And so that kind of turns a basic property is good review to this property had a great experience. If you're also a business traveler, don't hesitate, book it. You're going to enjoy it and you won't have anything to complain about. So doing all these things beforehand when you're designing your property, when you are done, I know it's a lot of work, but when you are done, it's going to be worth it, because you don't have all the issues. You know, you don't have the guests that complain, because these are people who are paying premium, like they want that experience. You have the cleaners that don't want to do this because they feel proud to take pictures and post that they've cleaned it. The design makes it easy for the turnarounds. They know exactly where everything should go. It's something that the property managers, they feel proud to have this on their portfolio. Good design, intentional design, makes you money and reduces the headaches and the stress. So you spend more time making bookings instead of making money, and getting bookings instead of losing sleep. So just creating a unique experience is like it's like the icing on the cake of intentional design around your ideal guest. So if you want, you can screenshot this screen, take a picture, or send me an email. I'll send it to you, just so that you know you have guidelines to go off of when you are thinking of unique experiences you can create and add in the design of your property.
Thank you. Super valuable. I want to give space to kind of content or thoughts, ideas around design that maybe haven't covered. I know we have some questions. I just quickly wanted to say, if you're listening and you do have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat. We'll work our way down the list. It's always fun having an expert on that can sometimes inspire ideas that we kind of take from here and work on later. So yeah, please, if you have questions, throw them in for Erica. We'll work through them. Did Eric, I want to give you space. Like, is there anything that kind of you'd say, hey, you guys need to stop doing this, or you need to definitely focus on that? We got the air fryer, but any other kind of tips in that area where you're like, guys, this is easy. You got to do these three things. Anything like that?
Um, I think if I have one thing, which may probably remind me of other things, but one really important thing is to look at your budget. I know people don't like to use the word budget because they don't want to think about the money, but you have to think about the money. In this field, I tell my clients, I'm going to talk about money. So if you're uncomfortable, let's fix that. But think about your budget and think about the property you want to purchase. You don't want to be in a situation where you buy this big property because it's a good deal, but your budget is not going to allow you to design it in a way that you offer the right amount of value for those guests. So you don't want to just throw in a bunch of beds. You know, you want it to be a game room with really good design. You kind of need to know if you're able to do that. Um, there's no cap. I know sometimes people want me to tell them like how much it will cost. For me, I have a cap because that's just the way I'm able to design it. I like to do like 5K for the bedrooms and 6K for common areas. So that's about the minimum I can create a really great design. But if you're very creative, you have a lot of DIY skills, and that number may look different from you. But it's really important to, before you even pull the trigger on the property, kind of plan that out or reach out to a designer and say, hey, this is how much I have to spend. Will I be able to provide the right amount of value? Will I be able to design it the right way? Because you don't want to just get a big property, your budget is little, you throw in a bunch of beds. That's how party houses happen. You didn't plan for it, but now you have guests that are just looking for the cheapest thing, which is what your property has become because you're having to slash rates to get bookings. So you really need to make sure your budget will provide enough value in the property that you are choosing. So very, very big and very important, because once you purchase that property, I mean, you're not going to rob a bank for more money. So you have what you have and you want it to
Yeah.
work. So definitely thinking about that beforehand. Again, a lot of work. I know it's easier to just get a property and throw in furniture, or think that throwing in furniture will make you money, but that's not going to be the case. And I don't want you to be there because it becomes a very frustrating place to be. You start not liking guests. You start thinking about them negatively, like, oh, I'm not getting goods. I'm not getting white sheets. Guests always get them dirty. Like, yeah, cost of business. They're using it. But you don't want to be in that space. You want to like your guests. You want your guests to be like, oh, thank you so much. I'm telling everybody about this property. I'm going to book. That's the space you want to be in. And when you think about them, they'll think about you. So that's a big, big thing. Another mistake that I think can be easily avoided is TV placement. I know everyone feels TVs need to go above the fireplace. It doesn't have to go above the fireplace. But if it works in your space, then by all means do that. But you want your TV to be directly across from sofas. So I've seen lots of properties where they just know a TV needs to go in there, but they're not thinking about how are guests watching the TV. If am I looking at it this way, like, or is the bed facing this way and the TV's to the left? Like, they want to watch TV comfortably. So don't just throw in the TV. Wherever you place your TV, make sure your ideal guest can comfortably watch the TV. Because I may be super picky because I'm a designer for vacation rentals, but I do not even consider properties where the TV is not placed correctly, because I know when I'm traveling with my family, having a movie night is something that I really want to do. So I know you have a TV in there, but I know we can't comfortably watch it, or I know there's not enough chairs in the living room to watch it. So I don't even consider it. And it may look good, but it's just not functional. So like TV placement, very, very important. And that can help you get more bookings really easy. And
Erica, in your
last,
experience, oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
In your experience, because one thing for me, because just piggybacking off the comfortability factor, is I think that you should never cheap out on good sheets and a decent bed. In your opinion, your experience, what have you seen? Because I know that's, beds get expensive, but I kind of take it personally as well, right? Like, don't cheap out on the bed. You spend a lot of time there,
Yeah.
and you want to feel well rested. So yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Again, it just depends on so many factors like your budget, your guest. But definitely having a comfortable bed is very important. But let's say your budget is not going to allow you to get the best top-notch mattresses in every room. What your budget can afford is a really good mattress topper. So
Mhm.
you can get whatever mattress you want just to, get the ball rolling and then get really good mattress toppers on top. And that's going to be a good bed to your guests. And then as you
Gotcha.
get more bookings, you can switch that out to the best bed on the market. But it's not really a deal breaker as long as it's not uncomfortable. So if you're
Mhm.
stuck, get any mattress and get a really good memory foam mattress topper. If you need a suggestion, I have one that I buy for everybody because
Mhm.
it's like some of the best sleep of my life. Every night, my husband lays down and he's like, and I'm like, we've had this topper for years,
Mhm.
but like the experience every night, it's like he forgets. Like
Yeah.
it's really great. So don't underestimate the power of a good mattress topper, but
Very.
definitely having a good bed is really important. And again, if you know your ideal guest values a good bed, like travel nurses, that's something to highlight in your captions or in your description. So just knowing who cares about it, that plays a role in it too.
Gotcha. Love the insight.
Definitely.
I was gonna say one more thing. What was the last thing I was going to say? Um,
I take fault.
yeah, it's all your fault for sure. But yeah, it was
We've got
really
more questions to throw at you. We've got a few from the audience. One is actually about the topper. A lot of intrigue
okay.
around the topper. So maybe you can share that with us and we can put
Okay.
that in the show notes.
Am I able to see the questions? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see it. So do I just go ahead and start asking? I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruin the flow.
Well, before you do, we've got about 7 minutes left. I just wanted to say, kind of reiterate, kind of key points that I'm going to weave into tax. I think with our clients, we are very intentional about budget and spend. I think that if you're learning now that buying an Airbnb is then going to require an investment in design or furniture, you're coming up on this pretty late. Right. So like when we look at helping a client think about budget, and we've had guests on who like all they do is help investors find an area and property type. Like we're always very conscious that, look, you want to have enough budget left to really make the experience positive. And I think that's what, if there's a takeaway I'm getting, it's like that's what Eric is saying is, hey, yes, budget is a tough conversation, but I would say for our audience, like it is absolutely black and white.
Yeah.
You're not just buying a place and then you're completely broke. Even if you are, you're using
Yeah,
a
but
credit card.
good broke.
It, a good broke. This happens all the time. I mean, I think like we have the benefit of following clients on their journey where, yeah, thing we hear all the time is like, hey, I'm cash. What is it? House rich, cash poor. Like that's part of the process of, hey, we saved all this money to buy a vacation rental. You got to pay 20% down when you buy these things if you're not buying it as a primary residence. So, yeah, it takes a lot of cash, and you want to have a mechanism and be thoughtful about how you do that. And, I actually think the best debt you can get out there if you're going to set up a business or an LLC is a 0% credit card, because what you can do is you can set these things up. You get 12, yeah, you're going to rack it up, but you're going to make that money back. And that's the point, is you're investing in something that looks great, that's going to have good occupancy and a strong ADR, a strong nightly rate, where you make that back, and you're going to make priority number one, paying that credit card before the interest hits, right? So I just wanted to reiterate that, look, we don't have these conversations to say what's the cheapest way to create a party house. We're trying to create an experience where, I think you said it best, like we don't feel negative about our guests, right? Like I know that like I've gotten there when like things break, and I think there's a
Yep.
question in here about like I like nice stuff, but like what happens if they use it? It's like that's the cost of doing business. So I'm glad you said that. I just wanted to layer that in. Um, and in terms of, like making sure all this gets a tax benefit, we're not going to talk about it today because we talk about it all the time, but that's why having a separate credit card for the business is so important. So we'll figure out, maybe we'll do a post on how to combine these two ideas, but absolutely you got to have budget to do this stuff, and that's the point, right? You want to have budget to make a great experience and get a great nightly rate. I don't know if you agree with that or want to add anything to that, Erica.
No, I think everything you've said is great. Also working with or having a streamlined process of how you are designing this property is also going to help with taxes. So that way you have a record of what things cost, and you're not just like, I'll get this bed, and then you go to the store, I'll get this nightstand. And that's how you go over budget, you know. So planning everything out before you pull the trigger, which is how I design, is really great and really important, especially for taxes.
Hmm. Especially. Well, let's talk a little bit how those listening would work with you. Maybe we go to the contact slide and share a little bit about how you work.
Okay, that would be our girl Lucy. Thank you. Okay, so if you are interested in working with me, you can always shoot me an email, visit my website. There's also a contact form you can fill out. You can schedule a consultation. And so during the consultation, what I do is take your space or your plans or whatever you provide for me, and I'll create a tailored plan for you of what we need to do to hit your nightly rate, who your ideal guests are. Just it's pretty much like a starting point, so you can take it and run with it, or most people take it and be like, can you make this a reality for me? And so that's what we'll do. So the consultation is just the first step. I do work virtually as well as full service. So full service, I will do the design, send those over, we'll place the orders, and pretty much it's hands off for you 100%. And you just show up and your property is nice and done. That is 4 weeks, sometimes 6 if I, spec something that's super important to your ROI, but it'll take a little longer. But the whole process is usually 4 weeks. I do work by a flat fee structure. So because I work with investors, I have a pricing calculator on my website. If it's the middle of the night and you are considering a deal and your realtor is like, you have to pull a trigger now, then you can go on there, ericao.com/pricing, plug in information, see how much it would cost to work with me, and then tell your realtor, like, you got a deal or you don't have a deal. But so that's on there. So you don't have to necessarily talk to me to know whether you want to or can work with me or not. I'm pretty streamlined. So if you are used to like lots of manual stuff, emails back and forth, Google Docs, that would not be the case with me. Everything is pretty organized. So I know you're probably going to be overwhelmed with other things, but the design process will not be one of those things. So that's kind of how you work with me. And if you aren't sure if you want to work with me, you just want to stay connected, I do post a lot of resources on Instagram at Erica OOH Designs. I have lots of guides on there, how to's, reels, stuff like that. And my DMs are always open as well.
That's fantastic. And one last thing, because I think a lot of our clients maybe have already set up their Airbnbs. They're doing well. Maybe they want a facelift. I mean, how do you think about kind of redesign or improving design? Is that something that you work with, or is it just new setups?
No, yes. So on my website, you can also schedule an audit. So on the audit, I will just identify areas that you can improve that may, you can make more money, or areas that are costing you money. And you can
Fantastic.
take that and see if you need to or want to start a new project, or just so you have a list of things that you can, go to every time you get some money to make a change. So you aren't just, painting an accent wall that doesn't bring ROI, but you are making the right changes. Oh, that was the thing. Now I remember that was the fourth thing. Just knowing the right changes. You're forgiven.
Thank
knowing,
you.
knowing the right changes to make in your property. So if you're at a point right now where you're not getting bookings or you're not getting the rates that you want,
Mm,
before you make any changes, I do have a post on my Instagram of right changes to make, and it lets you know based on the area what changes you should make in your living room, outdoor space, based on your goal. If you want to increase your nightly rate or get more bookings or get better content for your Instagram page, I have ideas on that. So if you want something specific, of course, you can reach out to me for an audit, but on there you can get, ideas. And if I can share like something in the chat there, I can share the link, but I don't really know how to do that. Is there a chat?
We can take all the important links that you want to share and we can put them into show notes and blast them
Okay,
out. So
perfect.
if you think of anything you want to add, you
Yeah, so
can.
I'll include a link to that
Yeah.
carousel so you can save it and just go back to it.
Well, thank you. There you have it. Guys, you can do it the hard way and you can do it yourself and you can make years of mistakes, or you can work with a pro who's seen it all
Mhm.
and can save you some time and money. Erica, thank you for your time. You've been an absolute pleasure. I apologize for Jacob throwing you off your thought, but
No, it's all
sounds
right.
like you forgave him.
I'm
I think-
forgiven. Thank you.
And guys, as always, if you do want to find us, you know where to look. Our contact form is the best place if you're not an existing client. If you're our existing client, I hope you've given us everything we need to do your tax return. Quick PSA. Well, thanks again, Erica. It's been an absolute pleasure. Again, anything you think of that you want to share with us, we can put in the show notes. And thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Erica.